Sahih al-Bukhari 981. Narrated Dashatiyah. We were ordered to go out for Eid, and also to take along with us the menstruating women, mature girls and virgins staying in seclusion. Ibn Aun said, or mature virgins staying in seclusion. The menstruating women could present themselves at the religious gathering and invocation of Muslims but should keep away from their musalla. Sahih al-Bukhari 982. Narrated Ibn Umar. The Prophet used to gnaw or slaughter sacrifices at the musalla on Eid al-Adha. Sahih al-Bukhari 983. Narrated al-Bara bin Azib. On the day of Nahr, Allah's Messenger delivered the khutbah after the Eid prayer and said, "Anyone who prayed like us and slaughtered the sacrifice like we did, then he acted according to our nusuk, tradition of sacrificing, and whoever slaughtered the sacrifice before the prayer, then that was just mutton, i.e. not sacrifice." Abu Burda bin Nayar stood up and said, "O Allah's Messenger, by Allah, I slaughtered my sacrifice before I offered the Eid prayer and thought that today was the day of eating and drinking non-alcoholic drinks, and so I made haste in slaughtering and ate and also fed my family and neighbors." Allah's Messenger said, "That was just mutton, not a sacrifice." Then Abu Burda said, "I have a young she-goat and no doubt, it is better than 2 sheep. Will that be sufficient as a sacrifice for me?" The Prophet replied, "Yes. But it will not be sufficient for anyone else as a sacrifice after you." Sahih al-Bukhari 984. Narrated Anas bin Malik. Allah's Messenger offered the prayer on the day of Nahr and then delivered the khutbah and ordered that whoever had slaughtered his sacrifice before the prayer should repeat it, that is, should slaughter another sacrifice. Then a person from the Ansar stood up and said, "O Allah's Messenger, because of my neighbors," he described them as being very needy or poor, "I slaughtered before the prayer. I have a young she-goat which, in my opinion, is better than 2 sheep." The Prophet gave him the permission for slaughtering it as a sacrifice. Sahih al-Bukhari 985. Narrated Jundab. On the day of Nahr, the Prophet offered the prayer and delivered the khutbah and then slaughtered the sacrifice and said, "Anybody who slaughtered his sacrifice before the prayer should slaughter another animal in lieu of it, and the one who is not yet slaughtered should slaughter the sacrifice mentioning Allah's name on it." Sahih al-Bukhari 986. Narrated Jabir bin Abdullah. On the day of Eid, the Prophet used to return, after offering the Eid prayer, through a way different from that by which he went. Sahih al-Bukhari 987, 988. Narrated Urwa on the authority of Aisha. On the days of Mina, 11th, 12th, and 13th of Dhul Hijjah, Abu Bakr came to her while 2 young girls were beating the tambourine and the Prophet was lying covered with his clothes. Abu Bakr scolded them and the Prophet uncovered his face and said to Abu Bakr, "Leave them, for these days are the days of Eid and the days of Mina." Aisha further said, "Once the Prophet was screening me and I was watching the display of black slaves in the mosque and Umar scolded them. The Prophet said, 'Leave them. O Bani Arfida, carry on, you are safe, protected.'" Sahih al-Bukhari 989. Narrated Ibn Abbas. The Prophet went out and offered a 2-rakat prayer on the day of Eid al-Fitr and did not offer any other prayer before or after it, and at that time Bilal was accompanying him. Sahih al-Bukhari 990. Narrated Ibn Umar. Once a person asked Allah's Messenger about the night prayer. Allah's Apostle replied, "The night prayer is offered as 2 rakat followed by 2 rakat and so on, and if anyone is afraid of the approaching dawn, Fajr prayer, he should pray 1 rak'ah and this will be a witr for all the rakat which he has prayed before."